The geopolitical landscape of the Middle East shifted violently at approximately 14:22 local time on April 3rd, 2026, when a United States Air Force F-15E Strike Eagle was confirmed downed over southwestern Iran. This incident marks a critical inflection point in a conflict that has simmered since late February, representing the first American fixed-wing combat loss within Iranian sovereign airspace during this escalation. As of this briefing, the search for the second crew member, the Weapons Systems Officer, WSO, has entered its most critical and hazardous phase, according to Pentagon sources. The F-15E, a dual-role fighter known for its deep strike capabilities, was operating in a high-threat environment when it was struck by what intelligence suggests was a sophisticated Iranian surface-to-air missile, SAM battery. Both crew members successfully initiated the ejection sequence at high altitude. While the pilot and WSO ejected nearly simultaneously, atmospheric variables, specifically high-altitude wind shear, separated the two during their descent. In a daring snatch-and-grab operation executed under the cover of darkness early this morning, U.S. Special Operations Forces successfully recovered the pilot. However, the WSO remains unaccounted for but presumed mobile, according to Ravi Chaudhary, former director of the Personnel Recovery Center in Iraq. Chaudhary notes that when a pilot is forced to punch out over hostile territory, every relevant asset in the theater is redirected. It is a total force mobilization to bring our people home. The missing WSO is currently operating under the SERE protocol: survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. This is not merely a set of guidelines, but a grueling psychological and physical framework. Former Air Force Major General Thomas Kunkel, a veteran of NATO's Airborne Early Warning and Control Force, emphasizes that the WSO's primary objective is to remain invisible yet detectable to the right people. The WSO is equipped with a survival kit integrated into the ejection seat and flight suit. This kit includes a high-frequency radio, a signaling mirror, infrared strobes, and basic caloric supplements. However, the most critical tool is the Combat Survivor Evader Locator, CSEL radio, which utilizes non-detectable burst transmission technology to provide GPS coordinates to rescue satellites without alerting enemy electronic warfare units. The United States has mobilized a specialized search and rescue CSAR task force. The workhorse of this mission is the HH-60W Jolly Green II, a helicopter specifically engineered for deep penetration into contested airspace. These aircraft are supported by HC-130J Combat King II tankers, which provide mid-air refueling to extend the on-station time of the rescue helicopters. To ensure the survival of the rescue package, A-10 Thunderbolt IIs, affectionately known as Sandies in the CSR community, are loitering nearby. Their role is to provide close air support, CAS, and suppress any Iranian ground forces attempting to close in on the WSO's position. Electronic warfare aircraft are also deployed to jam Iranian radar, creating blind spots through which the rescue fleet can maneuver. Tehran has recognized the immense propaganda and strategic value of a captured American aviator. The semi-official Tasnim news agency reported that Iranian military and police units have been offered a bounty of 10 billion toman, approximately $60,000 USD, for the capture and delivery of the American aggressor. This bounty effectively incentivizes the local civilian population and paramilitary groups, base IG, to participate in a human dragnet, significantly complicating the WSO's evasion efforts. The Iranians want nothing more than a captive on television, warns former General Houston Cantwell of the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies. They have endured weeks of precision strikes. A captured pilot is their only path to a perceived victory. The geography of southwestern Iran, characterized by rugged terrain and arid desert, presents a dual-edged sword. While the terrain offers hiding spots, it lacks the most fundamental requirement for survival: water. If you are stuck in the desert, you have nowhere to hide from the sun, and your water clock is ticking, Cantwell observed. From a strategic realist perspective, the downing of an F-15E over Iran is not merely a tactical loss. It is a rupture in the fabric of American air supremacy that has remained largely unchallenged for decades. This event demands an analysis of the power dynamics at play, the erosion of deterrence, and the grim calculus of personnel recovery in the 21st century. For 30 years, the U.S. has operated with the assumption that its stealth and electronic warfare suites rendered its fourth and fifth generation fleet virtually untouchable by regional powers. The loss of an F-15E to Iranian air defenses, likely a corded 15 or a domestically upgraded S-300 system, signals that the permissive environment is over. Iran has demonstrated that it possesses the kinetic density required to challenge American strike packages. This loss forces a recalibration of risk. If a Strike Eagle can be downed, the political cost of every subsequent sortie increases exponentially. The Pentagon must now weigh the strategic value of a target against the very real possibility of losing a $100 million platform and, more importantly, the highly trained personnel within it. In the cold logic of realism, a human life is often reduced to its utility as a strategic asset. A captured U.S. WSO would be the most significant bargaining chip Tehran has held since the 1979 hostage crisis. He would not be treated as a prisoner of war under the strict interpretation of the Geneva Conventions. He would be utilized as a human shield against further bombardment and a propaganda tool to fracture the American domestic resolve. The Biden administration, or current leadership, is now in a race against the sun. If the WSO is captured, the U.S. loses its freedom of action. The military's kinetic options would be instantly constrained by the need to ensure the captive's safety. Tehran's decision to place a $10 billion toman bounty on the WSO is a masterful move in asymmetric mobilization. By turning the search into a financial opportunity for the local populace, Iran has effectively created thousands of human sensors across the Khuzestan province. This complicates the U.S. CSAR mission. It is no longer just a military versus military engagement. It is now a military versus civilian population hunt. If a civilian mob finds the pilot before the HH-60Ws arrive, the U.S. faces the horrific prospect of having to use lethal force against non-combatants to recover its personnel. This would be a PR disaster that Iran would exploit on the global stage. In CSAR operations, the golden hour refers to the initial window where the chances of recovery are highest. As that window closes, the probability of capture or death rises sharply. Behind the curtain, the U.S. is not just searching for a man, it is searching for its prestige. A successful rescue reinforces the leave no man behind ethos, which is the bedrock of military morale and the ultimate signal to adversaries that the U.S. will violate any border and spend any amount of treasure to protect its own. A failure, however, would embolden regional actors like Hezbollah and the Houthis, proving that the Great Satan is in fact bleedable on the ground. We must look at the 1995 downing of Scott O'Grady in Bosnia or the 1999 F-117 shootdown in Serbia. In both cases, the recovery was a national sigh of relief. However, Iran in 2026 is not the Serbian military of 1999. Iran possesses a sophisticated anti-access area denial A2AD network. The strategic inference here is that the CSAR mission itself could become a honeypot trap. Iranian planners may be intentionally allowing the WSO to remain free for a short period to lure U.S. rescue assets into a prearranged kill zone. If the U.S. loses an HH-60W and its team of pararescue men, PJs, while trying to save one man, the tactical loss becomes a strategic catastrophe. The WSO's status directly dictates the next 72 hours of the war. If he is killed by Iranian forces, the U.S. is politically compelled to escalate to a Level 5 response, likely targeting Iranian leadership centers or the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps (IRGC) headquarters in Tehran. If he is captured, the U.S. must pivot to coercive diplomacy. The behind-the-curtain reality is that the WSO is no longer an individual. He is the determinant of the war's scope. The U.S. Air Force is currently operating at the limits of its technological and human endurance. The WSO's survival depends on his SERE training, but his rescue depends on the U.S. military's willingness to risk a wider war. In the realist's view, the WSO is the ultimate human pawn in a game where the board is on fire. As the sun sets over the Iranian desert, the fate of one American aviator hangs in the balance, and with him, the immediate trajectory of Middle Eastern stability. The world watches not just a rescue mission, but a test of national will. This has been a deep dive strategic report for Global Report.